Girls Danner Championship race. One that ought to be a good one. A team race that should be close, featuring a pair of teams ranked nationally in the DISTAT rankings. Cherry Creek, Colorado is their first time back at Nike Portland XC since 2021, where they won the Danner Championship. The team title score of 69 points and all 7 runners finishing in the top 40. The most notable runner on that team, Riley Stewart, currently running for Stanford. She was second overall, just behind Kate Peters of Lake Oswego. This Cherry Creek team brings in a ton of talent, including the likes of Emily Cohen, Kinley Wolf, and Kylie Hugh. As for Central Kitsap, a program rising and surging in the state of Washington under head coach Jeremy Duplessis, was able to capture their first ever state championship last fall. And part of the reason why Central Kitsap was so dominant last year in Washington is their pack was just so tight with one another. There's roughly about a 40-second spread between their number 1 through 5th runner. And as we can already see with how close their pack is, we see 3 Central Kitsap runners well out front early on, with both the Palmer sisters, Taylor and Audra, and then Clare Herring, who was runner-up at state 3A state championships last fall. So the Danner Championships, named after the longtime head coach of host Aloha High School, Jim Danner, considered the most successful coach in the program's history during his tenure. Teams are shared at least 6 Metro League titles in the 1980s and followed that with district performances up with 6 state trophies during that same time period. Call it the golden era of Aloha cross country, named after him, Jim Danner Championships. So Central Kitsap really trying to make a statement here early on against a Cherry Creek team that was 4th overall at the Colorado 4A state championships, and for a long time has had a lot of athletes that are very talented that have come out of that program. And 3 athletes, as I've already mentioned, one of them being Emily Cohen, with a lifetime best of 17:26.4. Most recently placed 9th at the Liberty Bell Invitational and took 9th overall, was 16th at the Running League Nationals. So I think it's one of the few athletes in this race that has few national competition races under her belt. And then there's Kinley Wolf, another athlete that was part of that Running Lane national team for Cherry Creek last year. Her lifetime best 17:45.1. And she ran that back at the Cherry Creek Invitational, their home meet back in August. So it's been a long time since she's ran a fast time. It's been over a month. Perhaps this is an opportunity today for her to throw something down. And then mentioned Kylie Hugh, just a freshman who's ran 18:19 at Liberty Bell this season. But really, we're starting to see what Central Kitsap brings to the table with Clare Herring in second. Then we'll get an idea of which Palmer sister this is right here. I believe it's to be Audra Palmer, the younger of the two, just a sophomore. Indeed is Audra Palmer, wearing bib 547. One of the top freshmen in the state of Washington last year. Just getting her season started. Most recently ran at the Brooks Fort Steilacoom Invitational, ran 18:46.7 to finish 6th overall. Though given the context of how that race played out and how Jeremy Duplessis really goes about how he coaches and how he gets these girls prepared throughout the season, he really does hold them back early on in the season. Perhaps that was not necessarily a hard effort by Audra Palmer and the rest of her Central Kitsap teammates, but as we can see here, in this early stretch. They're really hammering this first mile, Audra Palmer and Clare Herring, as they come up to the chip reader, the first loop of the day in this Danner Championship girls race. So over the chip reader, about 5:28, 29 or so, and through that first mile is about 5:31, 5:32. And Emily Cohen not far behind for Cherry Creek. And then Rylan Stevens, the top overall athlete back from last year's Danner Championship race, was 6th overall last year in 18:03. She's in 4th. So Central Kitsap already with their 5 runners through, along with Cherry Creek. They currently sit ahead of Colorado's team. So Washington, Colorado 1-2 in the early part of this race. And then Mountain View in 3rd. So it'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds. Cherry Creek, like I said, a solid group, but Central Kitsap, really a team that a lot of people are probably going to be sleeping on this year, and we'll get to see what they really bring to the table in this Nike Portland XC race, as this is their first race of the year that's televised nationally across the nation. So in the latest rankings, both teams are not in the top 30 rankings, according to our DieStat editor, Eric Bull. But again, probably two teams that are going to be overlooked this year and perhaps could bring something to the table at their NXR races in November. So Audra Palmer, Clare Herring starting to slow down a little bit as Emily Cohen, Annie Iverson, and Jaya Simmons, or excuse me, not Annie Iverson, Lauren Tittle from Oregon Escapol start to make their way up into that lead pack. Jaya Simmons out of Valley Catholic here in Oregon. Ran a lifetime best 18:16 recently at the Champs Invitational. His 3rd last year at the Oregon 3A, 2A, 1A state championships. One of the few state championships in the entire country to combine with 3 classifications. Moved up to the Danner Championship race this year after finishing 2nd in the Division II race in 2022. So we see now Emily Cohen taking her first lead of the day. So it's Cohen, followed by Herring, and then Audra Palmer in 3rd, with Jaya Simmons right next to Palmer. See Coach Duplessis really coaching his girls right there in the white hat. As Herring continues to hold on with Cohen, and Audra Palmer starts to fall back now after that early lead that went out relatively quick. We have Cohen, Herring, and then Simmons in 3rd. We make our way up through this second loop. Okay, Central Kitsap with that early lead after that first mile. Although perhaps with This move by Cohen. Could Cherry Creek then move into first as Clare Herring and Audra Palmer continue to fall back as Jaya Simmons now moves into second. But Emily Cohen now really pushing the pace here. Heading into this second half of the race. It was 5:31 for that first mile for Cohen. She's opened up the gap now by at least 3 seconds. And now we see Jaya Simmons start to pull away from Clare Herring as we head into our final lap of this girls' Danner Championship race. Across the map, see where Cohen is at right there at 11:25, and Jaya Simmons just a second behind her at 11:26. Clare Herring again starting to fall back just by 7 seconds at 11:33. Audra Palmer also falling back into fourth. And Lauren Tittle, Oregon Escapol, in fifth. At least for Central Kitsap's sake, it's nice to have both Herring and Palmer out front in the top 5. It's the only team with 2 girls in the top 10, so that could help them tremendously later on. For both teams, Cherry Creek and Central Kitsap, with 3 runners through now. It's Cherry Creek's 5th runner now over the timing chip. But Emily Cohen continues to build upon her lead heading into this final lap. As Cherry Creek now unofficially just 2 points ahead of Central Kitsap on this final loop. So battle between Creek and Kitsap. And now we're tied at 73 apiece. With currently Cherry Creek in the lead, though, because they have the 6th runner at well ahead of Central Kitsap's. So it's going to have to take a lot of effort for the Cougars to compete with Cherry Creek over this final mile. And now it's Central Kitsap into the lead. So lots of development over this final mile. Central Kitsap just 1 point ahead of Cherry Creek. And perhaps if they can get Audra Palmer and Clare Herring into that top 2, perhaps maybe even that top 3, that could be the game changer in the team standings at the end. And the team standings continue to change. So Cherry Creek now in front at 84 points, just 3 points ahead of Central Kitsap. Remember, all unofficial, nothing's official until everything is compiled and all the finishers cross the tape. But really, it's been a strong effort for Cherry Creek, and of course, Emily Cohen leading the way out front over this final stretch. It's about under 3 minutes to go here in this girls' championship race. Last year's champion at Blue Lake Regional Park, Hannah Thompson of Montgomery, one of the top athletes in the entire country. One of 10 athletes in that DISTAT top 10 rankings. Ran 16:49 at Blue Lake last year. Again, that was an incredibly hard course, and personally, I believe this course is much quicker. So anything in the mid-17 range ought to be a good time for this course. As you can see, Cherry Creek's coach urging on Cohen to push the pace here. We're getting down to the very end of this girls' Danner Championship race. And going back to the team standings, Cherry Creek with a 3-point edge over Central Kitsap. Going to boil down to where Clare Herring and Audra Palmer really finished in that race. They were quick from the start, from the get-go, going 1-2 through that first mile chip. And now starting to pay the price over this last mile. Our leader, just a sophomore. Really trying to make a statement here. And 16th at Running Lane Nationals, and trying to see if she can get herself to qualify for Nike Cross Nationals this year and compete with the nation's best. Lifetime best 17:26 from her freshman season. It's pretty close to running that same time. May not be a season's best effort. She's ran 17:30 already this year as she makes her way down the final home stretch. Emily Cohen of Cherry Creek. A little redemption for the Bruins, as Riley Stewart was second in 2021. Emily Cohen well on her way to win a Danner Championship race here at Nike Portland XC. One final stride for Emily Cohen as she becomes your 2023 Girls Danner Championship champion in 17:41.2. A great second half effort from Emily Cohen, as we're now seeing Simmons one last push here on this straightaway from Valley Catholic. So close to breaking that sub-18 barrier. And here is Herring and Palmer for Central Kitsap. So this is really important for the Cougars in the team standing piece, with two girls finishing in that top 5. We saw Lauren Tittle finish up, and then Kinley Wolf for Cherry Creek. So Central Kitsap not the only group with two girls finishing in that top 10. We'll see how the rest of the race shapes out for both Cherry Creek and Central Kitsap. As we see a Central Kitsap and Cherry Creek runner battling for third, and it looked like Central Kitsap's third runner edged out in the end right there. And it was Baylor Wolf over Cameron Bischoff just by a slight edge. See another Cherry Creek runner finishing up. And here comes Taylor Palmer for Central Kitsap. So all 5 Cherry Creek runners are through. As we await now Central Kitsap's 5th and final runner. And here comes Central Kitsap's 5th and final runner, and they pass Cherry Creek's. As it currently stands, Cherry Creek, unofficially the champion. Although we'll see as teams continue to pile in. We saw these teams mix it up over this last mile. Cherry Creek now just 1 point ahead of Central Kitsap. As scores continue to shuffle, now 2 points. So now the scores continue to go away from one another as Cherry Creek unofficially 74, Central Kitsap 80. Saugus out of California, 136 points for third place. So a solid effort all around from both Cherry Creek and Central Kitsap, but in the end, the Bruins come out on top and, just like they did 2 years ago, claim the Danner Championship team title. But this time also with an individual champion in Emily Cohen in 1741.2. So it was an aggressive start from both Herring and Palmer, and as you saw heading into that second mile, the fatigue started to come in for both of them, and Emily Cohen and Jaya Simmons both were able to take advantage of that heading into the last loop. And Cohen coming out on top with a 22-second victory in the end. So an individual team title sweep for Cherry Creek. Congratulations to Cohen and the Bruins on their efforts in the girls' Danner Championship race.